There are two films I want to talk about today. Both films are black comedy films. These two films are Doctor Strangelove and Hot Fuzz. There are two things that I want to talk about specifically in this video. The thing that I will be talking about is that I will be comparing the two movies in terms of the use of black comedy in them and how is black comedy different from American and Britain films. You've probably heard a film described as a black comedy or a dark comedy, but what exactly does that genre term mean? Typically, a black comedy, or otherwise known as black humor, and possibly first appeared in the late 1950s and early 1960s in American literature. The term did not come into common use until the 1960s. It is a dark comedy, hence black, and finds great humor in what most people regard as inappropriate subject matter. Black comedy mocks serious topics such as death and religion and makes fun out of various organized, logical aspects of our everyday existence. It is often ridiculous and morbid. To put it simply, black comedy is usually a film, play, book, etc. that looks at the funny side of things that we usually consider to be very serious, like death and illness. Some black comedies set out to shock their audiences with their unexpectedly humorous take on a serious subject. In many cases, the goal of black comedy is to shed light on controversial or disturbing subject matter through humor. There are also many films that are drama, thriller, or horror films that nevertheless contain memorable moments of dark comedy, including Fargo, Fight Club, and American Psycho. These sort of ideas and much more were what made black comedy special, but the film that really cemented black comedy was the movie I want to talk about today, Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove, a comedy of militaristic errors that ends in global nuclear destruction. Doctor Strangelove was released on January 29, 1964 and was directed by Stanley Kubrick and starred among many others. This movie is an American production. Exploding onto screens in 1964, Doctor Strangelove perfectly captured the mega-tense atmosphere that led the US and USSR to stockpile enough nuclear weapons to fry every human on the planet, and managed to leave the audiences rolling in the passageways in the process. Which was a little gross considering all the gum on the floor, but anyway. The inspiration for Strangelove came from a dead serious novel called Red Alert. This thriller laid out a nightmare scenario in which one American general goes nuts and decides to unilaterally start a nuclear World War III. Kubrick kept this and a lot of other key plot points from the book. But after first trying to make a movie that was just as serious, he eventually couldn't get over how absurd the whole arms race was. A film about what could happen if the wrong person pushed the wrong button and played the situation for laughs. US Air Force General Jack Ripper goes completely insane and sends his bomber wing to destroy the USSR. He thinks that the communists are conspiring to pollute the precious bodily fluids of the American people. Now I will be talking about the use of black comedy in this film. The title sequence of Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, is an example of black humor. The scene plays a light, airy version of the song Try a Little Tenderness, while showing US bomber planes refueling in mid-air and flying calmly through the skies. Later in the film, a deadpan Colonel Bat Guono implies that having to answer to the giant Coca-Cola company for breaking into one of their stoned-out machines was for change the dire situation than trying to call off a nuclear attack. George C. Scott's General Turgidson provides humorous understatement when he says that General Jack D. Ripper, yes, the name satirically emphasizes the connection between sex and brutality, may have exceeded his authority in ordering a nuclear attack. Equally funny is when Turgidson says that the whole military decision-making process should not be cancelled because of one slip-up, as if even that one mistake causes human extinction, it shouldn't be criticized too harshly. The Russian reader's name Premier Kisov is an appropriate comment on what is happening to the human race, and when Slim Pickens Major Kong promises citations and promotions for his crew after their mission, it strikes the audience that there can hardly be any after following the explosion of the nuclear weapons. The plane's H-bombs themselves are hilariously labeled nuclear warheads handled with care. All of these examples of humor not only contribute laughs for their audience, but they also reveal details about the attitudes and ideologies the film is mocking. These touches of black humor help elevate the film to a level of social commentary that has stood the test of time. Doctor Strangelove is an anti-war satire that implicitly conveys the importance of sexual expression while humorously portraying the worthlessness of war and violence that ravaged the sanity of the 1960s American public. Hot Fuzz is a 2007 British action comedy film directed by Edgar Wright, written by Wright and Simon Pegg, and starring Pegg and Nick Frost. The three and the film's producer Neera Pack had previously worked together on the television series Spaced and the 2004 film Shaun of the Dead. Pegg and Frost play police officers attempting to solve a series of mysterious deaths in a West Country English village. Nicholas Angel is the finest cop London has to offer, with an arrest record 400% higher than any other officer on the force. He's so good he makes everyone else look bad. As a result, Angel's superiors send him to a place where his talents won't be quite so embarrassing: the sleepy and seemingly crime-free village of Stanford. Once there, he is partnered with a well-meaning but over-eager police officer, Danny Butterman, the son of amiable police chief Frank Butterman. Danny is a huge action movie fan and believes his new big city partner might just be a real-life bad boy and his chance to experience the life of gunfights and car chases he longs so for. Angel is quick to dismiss this as childish fantasy, and Danny's puppy-like enthusiasm only adds to Angel's growing frustration. However, as a series of grisly accidents rock the village, Angel is convinced that Sanford is not what it seems, and as the plot deepens, Danny dreams of explosive, high-octane car chasing, gunfighting, all-out action seem more and more like reality. The, the typical conventions of the comedy genre in this film are: there is a motive throughout the film. This helps to keep the audience gripped throughout all the action as they want to try and solve the problem there, as well as the characters. The weapons used at the end of the film. This is a typical convention of the action genre. There are typically guns and weapons in action films. Also, the killing throughout the film. Killings are typical in the horror genre as it keeps the audience interested and also makes the storyline to some extent. This film also comes under the comedy genre because it follows the typical comedy genre conventions. These include high-key lighting. This means the film uses a lot of bright light. The sounds also suggest that this film is a comedy because it uses mainly diegetic sound throughout the film. This is to emphasize the speech to the audience. This is the main way that comedy is translated through this film. The characters also suggest the genre of the film is a comedy. This is due to Nick Frost's character, Danny. He is the idiot of the film, and his character is used a lot to show comedy. In contrast to this, there is Simon Pegg's character, Nicholas. He is the clever character in the film. This film used different forms of comedy. This is done throughout the film by using humor, dark comedy, and witty comedy. However, there is a very bloody and is gory. Does this also make it a horror, or is it a very heavy humor? The fact that the explosion and shootouts and punch-ups are set in the idyllic English countryside raises them to the level of satiric absurdity, certainly, but the film is always playing both sides quickly and effectively. Hot Fuzz balances its literal and figurative content as well as balances its satire and homages, an impressive achievement considering its inexorable moment and rapid-fire comic inventiveness. Hot Fuzz has a clear linear narrative structure as it has a clear beginning, middle and end which enables the audience to follow the plot of the film easily and allows the film to have a fluidity to it where each scene flows easily into each other. This adds to the audience's experience of the film as they don't have to take time overthinking the plot of the film. We come to mine and Edgar Wright's latest filmic effort, Hot Fuzz, a film that we hope surfs the wave of sensitive difference between the two countries until it crashes red and frothy onto both shores. As if Tony Scott were to guest an episode of Heartbeat, Hot Fuzz takes the most shamelessly histrionic excesses of American cinema and smashes them into that conservative and profoundly territorial enclave of brutishness. The country village never once faltering in the assumption that everyone out there will understand. In conclusion, both films are iconic in their own way and have stood the test of time. You can spend a lot of time exploring the differences between American and British comedy only to reach the conclusion that, ironically, they're pretty much the same.